So my stepdaughter wanted to move in with us full time, and we said no. Then we found out my hubby isn't actually her real dad. Now she's disappeared. Here's the lowdown. I've been married to my husband for 6 years, and we've got two kids together, an 8-year-old boy and a 4-year-old boy with special needs. My husband also has a 12-year-old daughter from a previous friends with benefits situation. His ex has primary custody, but he gets her on weekends, alternating holidays, and birthdays. Anyway, this past weekend, my stepdaughter asked if she could live with us full time. Her mom recently moved in with her fiancé and his kids, which has been a bit chaotic for her. Apparently, there's nothing shady going on, but new house, new rules, sharing a bedroom, stuff like that. My husband didn't say yes or no and said he'd think about it. When my husband and I talked it over, I had a bunch of concerns. First off, our kids and SD just don't get along, despite years in and out of therapy. SD is mean to my youngest because of his disabilities, and my older son, being super protective of his little brother, has even gotten into physical fights with her over it. Typically, when she's around, I take the boys to their grandparents' place or my hubby takes her out for some daddy-daughter time to avoid drama. We've got a 4-bedroom house, but both my husband and I work from home, partly to take care of our youngest, so space is tight. My WFH office is in my stepdaughter's room during the week, and my husband uses our bedroom for his office. Common areas are a no-go because I need privacy for calls. Plus, we don't have the budget to remodel or add on to the house right now. My husband gets it but still wants to go for it because he doesn't want his daughter to feel abandoned. I feel for the girl, but I have my own kids to think about, and given their history and the current living setup, it's just not practical or safe. Now, I know some people might call me the evil stepmom, but here's the deal. No, we didn't have an affair. My husband and his ex were never in a relationship. They were just friends who sometimes got drunk and hooked up. When she got pregnant, she decided to keep the baby and asked if my husband wanted to be involved. They never lived together, except for a few weeks when the baby was a newborn. Yes, I had my first kid before we married. We were in a long-term relationship, and after a birth control mishap, we decided to raise the child together. My husband proposed a few days later, but we waited until our oldest was 2 before getting married so we could enjoy our wedding and recover from childbirth. To address some specific issues, my youngest has serious disabilities and needs various medical equipment. SD has been really rough with him, pushed him out of his wheelchair, pinched him hard enough to leave bruises, hit his face when he couldn't verbalize properly. My oldest has even started fights because SD once told him that his brother wasn't a real person and that she'd have him taken away to experiment on. My son did hit her, but was disciplined for it. Also, I'm not allowed to discipline SD or be involved in her therapy because of her mom's wishes, and my husband doesn't want to rock the boat. Lastly, some troll or confused person claimed to be my sister-in-law, but my husband is an only child, so yeah, no sill here. A lot of people have asked whether SD knows what living with us full-time would actually be like. Honestly, I don't think she does. Right now, she gets almost all of her dad's attention on weekends, and she probably thinks that would continue if she moved in full-time. But reality would be very different, and I doubt she'd enjoy the daily grind here any more than at her mom's place. She's still a kid, though, so her perspective might be off. Some folks are worried about neglect or abuse at her mom's place, but from what I understand, it's just typical adjustment stuff. She wants to leave because of new house rules and having to share a room. Nothing more serious. So let me clear up what's happening at her mom's place. It's nothing major, really. The main thing that's bothering her is that she has to share a room with her soon-to-be stepsister. This is just temporary since her stepsister is moving out in the fall and will only be around on weekends and holidays. I totally get why it's bugging her now, though. Plus, her mom and her partner have decided that all the kids need to follow the same set of household rules. That means new limits on screen time and more chores, which is totally new to her. It's been a bit of an adjustment, but it's all just growing pains in a new blended family situation. Also, there's been some confusion about our family dynamics. To clarify, my husband and I had our first child together before we got married. He proposed when we found out I was pregnant, but I wanted to wait until after the birth to get married. We didn't actually tie the knot until our first child was 2 years old. As for my husband and my stepdaughter's mom, they were never in a serious relationship. It was more of a friends with benefits situation, and they both used to bartend together. When she found out she was pregnant, she told my husband, and he decided to be involved from the start. They never lived together, except for a short period after the baby was born, when my husband helped out during the newborn stage. I hope this clears up some of the questions. I appreciate everyone's input, and will keep you updated as things progress. Update #1. So last week, my husband and I had a deep conversation about SD, stepdaughter, possibly living with us full time and how we'd make that work. It was a tough talk because, as some suggested, I really pushed him to think it all through and identify any obstacles. Like, where would we work since common areas are out for various reasons, including employer restrictions and NSFW stuff he does? Plus, we don't want the kids seeing it. We had to consider how to handle any animosity and bullying between the kids and what consequences would be in place. We talked about what full-time living expectations would be for SD versus just weekends. She probably has some unrealistic expectations about what day-to-day life here is really like. We brainstormed every possibility, even extreme ones, like selling our home or living apart for a while. We crunched the numbers to see how it would affect our finances. In the end, we agreed that the answer is not yet, but with a goal for our family to work towards it. The best course of action is to slowly increase the time she spends with us, rather than a sudden custody switch. So, Friday night, my husband took SD out to talk about everything. He explained that she wouldn't have her own room at our place for a couple of years, but it's on the top of the list for home improvements, once our youngest handicap accessibility renovations are paid off. He explained the expectations and responsibilities she'd have living with us, and most importantly, addressed the bullying. He told her that her relationship and attitude towards her brothers need to improve before she can live here full-time. SD wasn't thrilled, but said she'd do better with her brothers. On Saturday, I made arrangements for my parents to watch our sons, and we invited SD's mom over to discuss how SD could start spending more time here. Unfortunately, it didn't go well. SD's mom is completely against any change in custody. She took SD home early. My husband tried to reach out to SD on Sunday to see how she was doing and asked if she wanted to do their guitar lesson over Skype since her mom took her home early, but she never responded. He called SD's mom, and she informed him that SD had lost her phone privileges. Edit: Some of you asked why SD lost her phone privileges. After some back and forth, we found out that she threw her phone at her mom's face, cracking the screen. Naturally, her mom wasn't happy and decided not to give the phone back until SD pays off the deductible to fix it. We still have other ways to contact her, so we're not completely cut off. Regarding why my stepdaughter wants to live with us and whether her mom knew about these plans, there's been some confusion. SD's mom didn't come to us with this request. My stepdaughter approached us the weekend before last, asking if she could live with us full-time. This started because she and her mom recently moved in with her mom's partner, and there's been some friction. My husband told SD we'd need to discuss it and see if it was feasible before making any promises. We didn't talk to her mom until after we'd worked out a plan and saw if it was a possibility. As soon as SD's mom found out, she immediately shut it down, and that's where we're at. I've seen several comments speculating that my SD might be experiencing abuse at her mom's house. I understand the concern, as abuse can happen to anyone, and I'm not naive about it. That said, I don't have any specific reason to believe that's what's happening here. My SD's mom has been with her partner for 5 or 6 years, and my stepdaughter has spent plenty of time around him. The recent change is that they've just moved in together. From what my SD has told us, the main issues are sharing a room with her new stepsister and adjusting to new house rules. As far as I know, my SD has a good relationship with her dad and hasn't confided anything about her stepdad making her uncomfortable. I want to believe she'd tell her dad if something was wrong, though I acknowledge she might not. For now, we're monitoring the situation closely, but don't have any strong evidence to suggest anything more serious. We're still figuring out how to handle all of this, especially with SD's mom being so firm in her stance. I'll keep you all updated as we learn more and figure out our next steps. Update #2. My husband has a daughter from before our relationship, and we also have 2 children of our own, one of whom is severely disabled. He and SD's mom never had a formal custody arrangement, but with all the recent drama and changes, it became clear we needed something formal and court-ordered. So we consulted an attorney and found out my husband wasn't listed on the birth certificate. We did a paternity test, and it turns out my husband isn't the biological father. He is absolutely devastated, and it's been a really rough time. He's spiraling, and he's in so much pain. We've hugged and cried together countless times this week, and he's just not okay. He's flip-flopping between despair and anger, and the anger scares me. His knuckles are all messed up from punching something, and he won't talk about what happened. Our home life is falling apart, and I'm struggling to hold it all together. Hey everyone! So, my husband is totally not in the right headspace to be a dad or partner right now. I sent our oldest to stay with my sister, but my youngest has been having a rough week with his medical stuff. I swear he can sense the stress in the house. Last night was a nightmare. We had to rush to the ER again because his seizures were getting worse. When we got back, my husband was plastered, screaming, and demanding paternity tests for our kids. He didn't even ask about our son. I was fuming but managed to keep quiet and just left the room. Once he passed out, I put some Gatorades and aspirin next to him. I'm really trying to get him to see a therapist, but no luck so far. We haven't told his stepdaughter, SD, or her bio mom, BM, yet, and we've already missed one visitation. Another one is coming up, so we need to figure that out ASAP. I'm really at my wit's end here and don't know how much longer I can keep this together. Update time. So, a bunch of people asked for an update on how things are going since our D-Day a couple of months ago. Some things got better, but other things, oh man, they've gotten way worse. Shortly after my last post, my husband and I had the biggest argument of our entire relationship. I don't even remember how it started. It was just one of those things where all our stress, anger, and resentment exploded. I took the kids and left, refusing to come back until he got his act together and talked to someone. The blowout did have a silver lining. It pushed him to finally deal with his issues. He's been to his doctor, got some meds, and is searching for a therapist. He tried one, but it wasn't a good fit. He's planning to try others as our finances allow. We had a heart-to-heart about his ridiculous demand for paternity tests. I told him how hurtful it was, and he apologized and agreed that we don't need the tests right now. The really crappy part is what's going on with his stepdaughter. He had to take a few weeks off from seeing her to get his emotions under control. Then we had our usual weekend visit, but we didn't tell SD or BM about the test results. My husband decided he still wants a relationship with his daughter and to pursue legal custody. The attorney said we might have a shot, but it'd be a complicated legal case. Here's the kicker. My husband, in a not-so-brilliant move, didn't keep things under wraps with BM. They had a huge argument a few weeks ago, and now we can't get in touch with BM, her fiancé, or SD. We called the police, but they said it's a civil matter and we need to go through the courts, so no help there. Sorry I don't have a happier update. Now, on to the next story. So, years ago, I adopted my best friend's baby after she and her husband were tragically killed in a workplace shooting. I was never romantically involved with my friend. We were just super close. They didn't have any family to take their baby, so I stepped up, even though I wasn't sure about having kids at the time. My daughter, Lily, is not biologically related to me, and she knows she's adopted. Most people assume she's my bio kid because she looks a lot like her mom. I usually just let people think that because it's simpler. My brother has been with his fiancée for about 2 years now, and she recently saw an old picture of me with my friend and her husband. She assumed I was Lily's biological dad and did a DNA test behind my back using my brother's DNA. When it came back showing no relation, she confronted me, accusing me of raising an affair baby. In front of Lily. I couldn't help but laugh. I told her I knew Lily wasn't biologically mine and explained about the adoption. My brother got mad at me for embarrassing his fiancée, but I told him she was out of line for doing the test and confronting me like that. Turns out, my brother had convinced her that I was having an affair with my friend and that Lily was my biological child. She apologized after realizing the truth and admitted she was manipulated by my brother. Update 2. I know people were curious, so here's what happened with my brother and his fiancée. She dumped him after finding out he lied to her for years. He got super drunk and made a scene on my front lawn, yelling insults at me and Lily. We called the cops, and he spent the night in jail for disturbing the peace. On a positive note, Lily is doing great in school and is super excited about her first science project. Thanks for sticking with me through all of this.